Well, unfortunately, I have some bad news, everyone. We're all going to be losing our jobs. And when I say all, that's me included. We're all losing our jobs. This is not fun. I feel like Michael on The Office when he finds out that the Scranton branch is being closed.
This is the worst.
That's how it is. It's not fun. And I know when you see this type of video or hear this type of news, you're probably thinking, Joseph, this is just going to be another recession 2023 video. The big recession coming next year that's going to raise unemployment a little bit because people are going to be laid off. Not at all. That is not at all what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about people losing their jobs because of a recession. I'm talking about people losing their jobs because of automation. And when we think about automation, typically what we think about are robotics. Robots replacing people's jobs. For example, we have this new robot here. This is from Amazon. This was released just recently. It's called Sparrow. They call this robot Sparrow because it can pick up items out of a box. It can identify what the item is and then sort it in a different box of where it needs to go. It's a picker. And it can pick up all different items in all different sizes and weights and quantities, different textures, all different things. This is very unique. This is something up until now that only humans could do. There was no robot that could do this. A human would have to stand there, pick an item out of a box, identify what it is, scan it, and then put it where it needs to go. That is something that required the dexterity and the intelligence of a human. Now we see a giant robot arm doing the same thing. And I've seen a lot of responses to this type of thing. People saying, it moves slowly, I could do this faster. The truth is, this is superior to humans in almost every way. This thing can work day and night, 24/7. It doesn't need bathroom breaks. It doesn't need to go home at night and take a rest. This robot doesn't have sick days or time off. It doesn't need health care, and it can't unionize. Now, at least so far. It might unionize in the future when we have a robot uprising. But so far, this is superior to humans in basically every way. And if Amazon can make 3 or 4 of these robots in every single center, every single fulfillment center, imagine the amount of humans they can cut down on. This is an example of automation in process. In this case, what Amazon is doing is automating a pretty awful job. Being a picker at Amazon is one of the lowest rated jobs you can have. It's not fun. It causes injury. It's often complained about online, and it's something that Amazon is really working on automating, so humans no longer have to do that job. Now, you might lean back in your office chair while working at your office job and say, Joseph, that's unfortunate for those Amazon warehouse workers, but that's just a manual labor job where they pick things out of a box and put it in a different box. And my job that I work at is much higher level than that. You have to be a lot smarter to do what I'm doing. And I'm sorry, but a hydraulic arm that picks things up and puts it somewhere else, that's not going to be able to replace me. That's what I thought too. That's what I thought until I found out about ChatGPT. This is what it looks like. It's a basic chat application where the only interface you have is simply this text box on the bottom of the screen there. But the capabilities of this are pretty astounding. Let's say that you are a web developer. You're starting off and you have some basic questions. Let me go ahead and just type in one basic question. How do you center something in HTML? Pretty simple. HTML is the language of the web. How do we center something in it? The bot gave a response here. It says to center the element in HTML, you have to use the style tag. You can use margin auto, or you can use text align center. These are correct answers. And not only did it give the correct answer, but it gave it in a nice formatted response with copyable code here. You can copy and paste it to your clipboard to put right into your code editor. And this is a very specific, direct question. But this is a pretty entry-level question. Let's go ahead and give this one a little bit more challenging questions. Let's ask it to write a function that finds the nth highest and nth lowest number of an array. This is a little bit more challenging. Instead of asking it to just do some HTML, which is pretty basic stuff, now we're asking the bot to write an actual function. Let's go ahead and see what it responds here. This is when bots go from being helpful to being scary. Yeah, it answered the question. It didn't only answer it, but it did it in detail, correctly, with all the notations, all the examples. It gives us specific functions, it gives the array, and then it explains how to do it in a nicely formatted response. This is incredible. I've been coding for a long period of time. I've never seen something that's able to do this with this level of accuracy and with this formatting. These answers are pretty remarkable, and I've seen different programmers throw different higher level questions at this bot over and over again, and it is incredible the type of functions and the type of answers it's able to get. It's not perfect, but this is pretty impressive. I haven't seen anything like this ever before. Okay, the bot's pretty good at programming. It can write functions, it can answer questions, but we still need programmers to implement and do the overall architecture of different apps, right? So there's still a need for programmers, but the bot is surprisingly good at writing code, and it's even good at doing error checking. It's good at finding bugs. You can put in a piece of code that doesn't work, and it will explain why it's not working. Now, maybe the bot is just particularly good at coding. That's the one field it's really excelling at. Well, I went ahead and contacted my buddy that's a CPA. He's a senior accountant at a pretty large tech company. And I asked him, can you give me very difficult questions, at least ones that you would ask in interview settings, to really determine if this accountant knows their stuff? Like a question that you've frequently asked in your interviews for people you're hiring. He said, sure. The question he would ask is, why do I have a payable account with a debit balance? This is a very basic question to try to figure out what this accountant possibly knows. The bot says it is possible that you have a payable account with a debit balance because you have outstanding debts or payments that have not been made. This can happen if you've made purchases or incurred expenses on the credit, but have not yet paid them off with the full amount. The debit balance in your payable account represents the amount that you owe, and it will remain until you make necessary payments to bring the accounts back to zero balance. This is a pretty good answer. He rated it as a decent answer, something that he'd look for. Basically, it's unrecorded accruals of expenses. All right, so the bot can do a little bit of programming. It can do a little bit of accounting. Let's go ahead and see some really difficult jobs that really no one else can do, the job of a YouTuber. Let's go ahead and see if this bot can really pull off what I do, because I know it might be able to replace your jobs as accountants and programmers, but I doubt it will be able to replace a YouTuber. Let's say, write a script for a YouTube video of 5 great dividend stocks. Let's go ahead and see what this thing can do here. Okay, we got a script here. Let's take a look at it. The intro here, it says, hi there and welcome to this video on the top 5 great dividend stocks. These stocks have a strong track record of paying dividends, and they have the potential to be great investments for anyone looking to earn income in their stock portfolio. I think that's a pretty good introduction. Better than most YouTubers, I'd say. Actually, I think it's a very decent introduction. Number 1, Johnson & Johnson. Good, solid dividend stock. I think it's on the right track. Johnson & Johnson is a healthcare company that has been around for over 130 years. It's the leader in the industry with a well-diversified portfolio of products and services that include pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and consumer products. The company has a long history of paying dividends, and it currently has a dividend yield of around 2.5%. Pretty good summary, and this goes on, giving little explanations, paragraph explanations about the dividend, because that's the focus that I put for the bot and the companies. And the stocks that it pick are very tried and true dividend payers. And I said to pick 5 great dividend stocks. This is a pretty solid answer. I look at the conclusion here. These are the top 5 great dividend stocks. While there are no guarantees in the stock market, these companies have stronger track records of paying dividends, and they have the potential to be great investments for anyone looking to earn income from their stock portfolio. Thanks for watching. Happy investing. This may actually be better than the majority of investing videos out there. The script is short, concise. It goes over 5 different companies, gives explanation of what they do, what they pay you. It has a little outro in it. I think it's actually a pretty good script. At the very minimum, a YouTuber could just type something like this in to spawn ideas. It could be a think tank for future videos. And I think it's actually pretty incredible because you can change any of these variables. You can talk about growth stocks, and you can up the number to 10. You can change the script in any different way, and it gives out a nice little writing of it. At a minimum, a very good prompt, but honestly, I could see a YouTuber just reading this verbatim and it not being too bad. Now here, I thought that my job was unreplaceable. I thought I was one of a kind, but we have this robot writing pretty good YouTube videos. So it does programming, it does accounting, it does YouTube videos. I've seen questions where it answers legal questions, where it drafts contracts. I've seen it draft rental agreements. It can do all sorts of different things that almost all of us do for our work. So it got to the point where I really just wanted to stump this thing. I really wanted to prove a point and show that it can't do everything. And I went to a higher level, more niche, more difficult career to get into, something that is not so common as just YouTubing or coding. I asked my oldest brother a question, who is a vitreoretinal surgeon. And that's a type of surgery where you work on the retina of the eye. It's super complex. He went to school for like 100 years, and he has a lot of experience in this one particular thing, which is doing eye surgery. He does all sorts of disgusting things like peeling back membranes, giving shots in the eye, and all different things. I texted him last night. I said, check this out. Ask me a super difficult medical question, or a question that only top-tier eye surgeons would know. Test my knowledge. He asked, what is the most common condition likely originating from the choroid affecting young males? Very specific, nuanced question there, and one that I had no clue of. And I typed that in to ChatGPT. The bot responded with the most common condition likely originating from the choroid affecting young males is the choroidal neovascularization, also known as age-related macular degeneration. My brother said, not bad, but that is incorrect. It would have been correct if you were talking about elderly people, which makes sense because the bot responded with a condition that's age-related, and the problem here was affecting young males. So these little nuances is where the bot got it wrong. My brother responded saying it's central serous retinopathy, whatever that means. And he says this is why Dr. Google is always a bad idea. Okay, so finally we found something the robot can't do. Retina surgery. So we can stump it. It can't do everything. Now, this got me to the point where I was just thinking about things that this bot might not be able to solve. I wanted to see the limits of how smart it was, and I started asking it different questions like this one. When I was, let's say, 8 years old, my little brother was 4 years old. How old is my little brother if I'm now 30, let's say 30 years old? All right, so we see the basic question there, and this one's a little bit tricky. When I was 8 years old, my little brother was 4 years old. How old is my little brother if I'm now 30 years old? If you are 30 years old now, and you were 8 years old when your little brother was 4, then your little brother is now 30 minus 8. That's 22. See, that is incorrect because my hypothetical little brother should remain 4 years younger than me no matter how old I get. So at age 30, the little brother should be 26 years old. And this is the type of nuances that I've been able to trick this bot. Now, even though this AI chat isn't perfect, I did find it extremely interesting and helpful and more impressive than any other AI I've seen so far. In fact, a lot of the responses that I get from this, I find far superior to another search box on the internet. And we're talking about Google here. Google's, again, one of my larger holdings. I have $15,000 invested into this company. And of course, we have the core product, Google Search. This has raised a lot of questions of the type of competitive advantage or the lack thereof of Google Search. In fact, I actually did a poll on Twitter. Will OpenAI, who is the creator of this chat, will they hurt Google Search? Now, 40% of you said yes, and 60% of you said no. And I thought this response was very interesting. It raises questions into Google's moat. Now, a lot of people have said, all right, this might be a better experience than Google, but Google can always replace this type of application. They can build their own. That's what Google's really good at, is AI, right? That is true, but that raises another problem. If Google does build out their AI chat, how do they monetize it? This type of thing is very difficult to monetize compared to what they currently do. What they currently do is give you a bunch of links, and the top ones are ads. But I don't know how Google could effectively monetize this to the same degree they have their search box. And I think if they could have, if Google was confident in their ability to monetize a chat AI like this, they would have already done it. They would have already released it. I think part of the reason that Google hasn't pushed out something like this is simply because of the economics behind it. So even if a chat box that was superior to Google came out, I think it would be very difficult for it to have the same economics that Google Search currently has. And I do think that poses a potential threat. So far, my thoughts on this overall are that it's impressive. I think it's impressive overall. The tests I've done show that this thing has a lot of potential. It can answer specific questions in coding, accounting, in legal contracts. It can do it in medical. It can do it in lots of different applications. I think it will largely be replacing customer service. I think it could trick people to think that it's a human when it's really a robot. I think it might actually be better than many customer service agents through chat. So I think there's so many applications for this going forward. The big problem I see with ChatGPT right now is that it's often inaccurate. It gives inaccurate information and it states it as though it's accurate. And if you're asking the question, that means you don't really possess the skills to know whether or not it's accurate or not. So you might be being fed completely false information and have no clue. And I think that's a potential issue. But that's all stuff that can be revised and ironed out over time. I think that the team at Google are going to need to respond to this somehow. Google has a little bit of an innovator's dilemma. Right now, they have a profitable search business, and this could potentially disrupt it, so they can choose whether or not to have someone else disrupt it, or whether they disrupt their own business themselves. And those are decisions Google's going to make. But right now, I still think we're a long ways off from it completely supplanting Google search. There's so many things that Google search does with different locations and reviews and all different things that this doesn't have built in. So I don't think it's an immediate threat, but I think it's something to keep an eye on down the road. And in terms of it replacing everybody's job, I know this is a common concern anytime there's any type of automation, but the truth is, software automation has been happening for a long period of time. If you work in programming, the tools that we have to build applications have continually been better. They've been more revised and they've been automated over time. And I see this as one more advancement in that automation. It's not going to be able to completely build an app from the ground up. So we're still a ways off of it replacing programmers. I certainly think we're a ways off from it replacing accountants. But again, I think this does have a lot of applications. And in my opinion, it's one of the most, if not the most impressive uses of AI that I've seen over the past couple of years. Incredibly interesting stuff here. So that's my thoughts overall. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.